the ability to fail fast is really important because you have to learn so much about so many things and you've got to learn it fast. Otherwise, the business will run you, right?
Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This is your host, Joshua Gillow, and this week I have Eric Sprague and Katie Harris on. They just wrote the book, The Road to Seven Figures, even better than six figures, right? Seven figures, your guide to home service success. So we're going to be unpacking some great stuff, and our topic for today is going to be how to take back control when your business runs you, how to reclaim your time and sanity. I mean, hey, guys. We've all been in business. We know how fast this thing can get out of control. So, guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited today.
Hey, we're excited to talk to you, Josh.
Yeah, I'm excited to share with the listeners what you've just done with this book. It's incredible. It's all built toward the home service industry, which landscapers, hardscapers, outdoor living pros, you're all within that bucket there. We're all work directly with homeowners. And my main takeaways today, listeners, is we're going to focus on how to manage the fear of losing. Right? In business, success. I saw a Facebook post a couple of days ago and I actually reposted it. It was so simple. And it said, failure is just one step closer to success. You need to fail your way to success. If you're not willing to take the blows that come with failing, then you're not going to succeed. That is part of it. That is part of the recipe. It's like taking the milk out of cookies. You can't do that, right? It's part of it. Next, we're going to talk about how to balance your energy between work and family and hobbies and life. And I know you guys are very active. I see Eric always on his bike. He's out all over the place in beautiful mountains and stuff. So how to balance all of that. And then also how to manage your time. So those are takeaways we're going to work on here. So guys, welcome to the show. And I want to jump right in with when it comes to managing the fear of losing, how do we do it? How do we make that normal? How do we take the pain out of it?
Such a good question. Eric always talks about how being a business owner or entrepreneurism is an extreme sport, right, Eric? And I think this goes perfectly into that. Like, it is an extreme sport and nobody likes to lose. I think I can speak for all of us on this podcast right now. Like, we like to win. That kind of is a motivator for us. And so that fear of losing, I see it time and time again in myself and other people being probably the number one thing that stops us from trying. Stops us from trying.
Yep. I think you also, I was blessed, Josh, I grew up playing sports and you learn to lose all the time. You're losing all the time. I grew up playing baseball. If I lose 7 out of 10 times, I'm in the Hall of Fame. Right. So, if I have a 300 batting average at the end of my career, I'm going to the Hall of Fame. That meant I lost 70% of the time. So, I think we have to also maybe train ourselves to lose a little bit and to, for people who maybe didn't grow up playing sports, try to find something where you don't win all the time, but you're in the process of just getting better. Because I totally agree. You fail your way to success. That's how it's done.
I think the other part that's really interesting to me is like you jump into business, you expect it's going to be hard. You expect there might be some failures along the way. But the mindset to me that's really tough is that honestly, the failure of winning. And it's a lot harder to pinpoint. You can pinpoint the failure of losing, but what that mindset when we get scared about what winning looks like, I see that hold people back. Maybe even more than the fear of losing. It's
the fear of success. Yeah, that's something, isn't it? It's like you wouldn't think that's a fear. How's that possible? That's the goal, right? And it's the old idea of failing forward, constantly learning from your mistakes and moving forward. That's how we do this thing called business. It's not perfect. No one has a perfect clean record. To your point, Eric, you're going to lose 7 out of 10 games and still win. That's the thing where we have to know that we have to be prepared for that as entrepreneurs, as business owners, that it's not going to be clean and you're not doing it wrong if you're failing. If you're trying things and losing money and you're trying things and hiring people and they're the wrong people, this is what the game's all about. This doesn't mean you're doing it all wrong. Now, if you keep doing the same things over and over, That's just a choice. If you make the same mistakes over and over, that's a choice. But if you see the problem and then you're like, hey, I don't know how to fix this. Well, in today's day and age, there's no excuse for not being able to find someone who can help you find a book, find a YouTube video, to find a podcast, something, someone who can help pour into that deficit you may have. And it's okay, because when we fire off our businesses, the IRS sends us a nice EIN number in the mail and says, good luck. I'm coming for my taxes in a year from now. I don't care if you know how to run business, market, or any of that stuff. That's what I love about your book. It's a nice layout of what it takes to run a business like this, right? So we're going to go deep into that here the next couple of weeks as we're working through this book. And so the fear of losing, if anybody's out there, listeners out there, if you're scared of making a big mistake, or you're down to your bank accounts are much lower than you expect, and you got to make a big decision, what kind of guidance or what kind of advice could you give somebody that's out there that's just afraid because, this could be the last, it's been a tight year. This could be a big win or a gigantic loss. How do you manage that mentally?
That's a hard, Josh, I think that's different for everybody. Some people are natural born risk takers, and they will always double down on themselves. I'm one of those. I think Katie for sure is one of those people. And Josh, I don't know you as well as Katie, but I'm guessing you are too. So there's some people who are just going to have the inclination that I believe in myself enough that I'm so stubborn, I will not quit. Right. And to be honest, I think that is an entrepreneurial trait that also can be learned, though. And I think you have to be honest with yourself if you really are an entrepreneur. There are a lot of people who own businesses that really should probably have a job. They don't have the internal makeup to be an entrepreneur. And, they actually could probably go make more money working for somebody else, right? So Katie, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and work fewer hours.
Yeah, exactly. How many crazy people would give up a 40-hour, a week job and a guaranteed pay for 80 hours a week and no guarantee? I mean, only crazy people do that. So, that's the nature of entrepreneurship. That's the nature of owning and running a business, is you've got to be that risk taker. You have to be able to learn. It's not something you have to have the skills for now. You just have to learn how to be able to do that and manage risk.
Josh, do you know why I'm an entrepreneur?
Why are you an entrepreneur?
Because I'm completely unemployable. Like nobody.
Nobody wanted to just say, like, I'll do it myself.
I think a lot of us are, kind of on the island of misfit toys. Like we just we didn't fit into a company culture, or we think differently or whatever. And when you start a business, you have to be all in on you. Like you have to recognize that it's a lonely road, and your family is going to think you're insane. Your friends think you're insane. Like, you're on your hero's journey at that point, and you have to be prepared for that. And I think I talk about that a fair amount in the first section of the book, that, you have to be true to your North Star. And if that's running a business, then you got to go all in.
Yep.
And to kind of go back to your question a little bit too, Josh, like, what do you do, right? You're like, I have got to make some big decisions. I've never been here before. I think that's one of the biggest things we run into as entrepreneurs, especially when you're on that road to your first 7 figures, is I've never done this before. Nobody taught me how to do this. And so the ability to fail fast is really important. I think it's especially important on that road to your first 7 figures, because you have to learn so much about so many things, and you've got to learn it fast. Otherwise the business will run you, right? And so the ability to fail fast and then recognize that failure is just a learning, right? And get up and go again, and go up and be a little bit better. It gets really scary to me, and it's probably more because it's my personality than anything. But when things get really slow and you just live in problems, like that to me is terrifying, because I'm like, let me go take some action. And even if that action doesn't work, I'm one step closer to the one that will.
Yeah, 100%. It's always about doing the next right thing. You may not have a glimpse of the next 40 things that need to happen, but just do the next right thing, and it'll guide you if you get stuck. And what's beautiful and what I've learned over my journey is that it is so important to have mentors, have coaches, have people you can go to, trusted people around you that you can build a network of people that you know. And maybe it's just people you only ever met on the phone call, or maybe it's a Facebook group, something that you can reach out and be like, guys, look, here's the situation. How would you handle it? And being open to what they might say, to ask for help. Gentlemen out there specifically, to ask for help. You're not islands. You don't have to do this alone. You can ask other men, other women that have gone through the same thing you're going through right now. And the next thing you know, you're going to find that they're willing to pour out and say, hey, I was at that same exact situation. Here's what I did. And here's what was the result. And they're like, wait a minute here. I don't have to do this alone. You don't have to. So my point in saying all this is that the risk isn't as high if you have someone guiding you. Like if I have big business decisions to make, I go to my trusted advisors.
Yeah.
I've been very blessed to be able to find good people and to be able to go and say, guys, look, here's the situation. What do you think? And like, for instance, when it comes to big money decisions, I go to my CFO and they're like, oh, well, that's nice. You have a CFO. It's a fractional CFO. It costs me very little to have this guy. And he looks at everything. And I'm like, hey, what should I do next? What do you think? Well, here's 3 options. Which one you want to do? And then I'm like, I got a guy in my corner that actually knows more than I do in this situation. And the next thing, like, okay, cool. That makes perfect sense. Let's do that. Let's try that. Let's run that through the process. Let's bring it to the team. And so you don't have to feel like you're all alone making these decisions that could completely collapse your company by just guessing. So instead of guessing, you're working with evidence.
Yeah. I would say when you fell fast and you fell smart, and that's what that is, right? That's like, hey, I'm going to go to somebody smart. I'm going to get good information. I'm going to do this a better way. Like you really are on the path to success. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like to walk down that path.
And the crazy part,
well, I was going to say, like, kind of backing up what Katie said in a way, when things are slow or it's not going like you want, I always said that there's money in movement. I need to move. I need to write an email. I need to go to a chamber meeting. I need to go knock on a door. I need to make a phone call. Like, you can't sit there and just ruminate on all your problems. Just start moving. Go.
Yep. Yeah, 100%, dude. And that's, this goes on kind of another point I want to discuss here is about this identity around, who we are in the business, what role we play. Like when we first start, typically you're the chief cork and bottle washer. You do everything. You're doing the bookkeeping, the estimating, the designing. You're doing like in the field often, like you do all of it. So you become that worker. Now, what most businesses, specifically when you get closer to that 7-figure line, is they have to start becoming a different person. They've got to now build skill set they didn't have before because, well, hey, that worker is great at doing the thing, but that worker is not great at running a business. So is it a hobby or a business? Question, listeners. Are you running the hobby or are you running the business? If you're running the hobby, stay out there and keep doing it and do the same thing. Just have fun with it. Don't expect to make any money. If you want to run a business, you need to grow faster than your business is growing because it's not going to ever outpace you. You personally have to be growing faster.
I agree. The person that you look in the trades, most people, like myself included, start as a technician. Like, hey, I know how to do X skill task, right? Oh, well, I'm so good at this, then I'll start a business and everybody's just going to want it and whatever, right? And we always see this entrepreneurial stall, like around, it depends on the person, right? 300, 500, 600,000. I mean, only 5% of every business ever make it to $1 million, which is insane. But what happens is that they don't recognize that they have to hire people to do things that they aren't good at, right? Maybe getting a fractional CFO would be part of that, but also you have to let go of control. Like I think most small business owners never get to 7 figures, not even because, this is part of the changing your mentality, right, Josh? It's like, you have to let people do. Yeah. And usually, like Katie and I both have invested like ungodly amounts of money in coaching. And that's
hey, me too.
Yeah, right. And I think that's what helps you get there. You need people who are down the road further to go. You can't be and do everything. You need to let go. And my biggest thing was, I don't want the business to be my identity. The business is an asset. It's like I have a hedge fund, and my job is to manage this hedge fund, not the hedge fund is me. Katie, you want to add to that?
Yeah. No, I think it's so smart. Honestly, it gets really hard when this is your baby and you live it day and night, all the time, especially like those first few years, that first year, whatever that timeline looks like for you, like you're doing everything. It is your baby and it means everything to you. It's hard to separate you from the business, but the real challenge, the real thing that happens, Eric, I love when you say treat it like an asset, right? Because the risk of not doing that is then it all becomes about ego. And the second your business is about your ego, you've got some real challenges to overcome. And I contend that honestly, there's a really great book out there called Ego is the Enemy. And I think it is the enemy. Ego is the enemy to risk sometimes. Ego is the enemy to letting things go. Ego is the enemy to growth, right? There's so many paths, so many times along the way where your ego will trip you up, especially if your whole identity is tied to the business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And often, I know what on my journey in almost 30 years in this business was trust, right? I know how to do this stuff. I'm the best widget maker, whatever. I'm the best landscaper you can find, right? So how do I trust anyone else to do it the way I do it? Because, it's just not possible because I barely pull this off every single time, right? So how can I trust someone else to do it just as good as me? Well, I don't trust them. The problem is not that I don't trust them specifically. It's that I didn't trust myself. I didn't have the skill, so I didn't trust myself.
You didn't trust yourself.
That's why I couldn't trust others.
Josh, you didn't trust yourself to train them and manage them? Is that what the fear was?
Yeah. Yeah, the fear was that I was good at doing it, but I didn't have the skill set to train others to do it. So it'd be easier for me to stay in the same spot, to be the technician out there doing the thing, because I didn't know how to train other people. So instead of learning how to do that, and I did eventually learn how to do that. That's the bigger, story, but
that's the beautiful part.
That's the cool part. But in the beginning, I felt completely stuck because I'm like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to, get crews to run without me there? How am I going to have them know where to drive when they're not wasting time? And I think that's where systems and processes come in. Obviously, that's where all of that happens. How do we do it as a company? Not how does Joshua do it, right? This is how do we agree this is done how the company does it. And now all of a sudden we have something to work with because now it's an asset. It's not just a person going out there doing the thing. So that's the bottom line of all of it. But so when it comes down to it, if your identity is built into the business and you are the business to the ego side that Katie was talking about, it's time, listeners, if that sounds like you, maybe you take a step back and say, what am I doing here? Is this just an expensive hobby or am I trying to run a business? Because there can't be ego in that business at that point, or you're not going to get a team to get together for you. They're not going to coalesce around that.
Josh, I'm lucky enough. I have quite a few friends who've scaled very large businesses, and I spend a fair amount of time with them on the bike, right? Biking's a great place to meet that person and also spend a lot of time talking. And, it sounds counterintuitive, but when we're talking businesses that are very large and they are so dispassionate about these businesses when they speak about them. This is a task. This is a thing. This is an asset. This is something that I work it to get what I want out of it, but it is not who I am. And like, if I could give anybody advice, it's like, train yourself to think that way.
Yep.
Not easy.
Well, and that comes back, honestly, like, why did you start it in the first place? Like, you didn't start it because you wanted to be the business, right? Like, what is the why behind it? Start with that why, know what it is, and then like always come back to it. Always come back to, why am I doing this? And then if your behaviors and your attitudes contradict that why, it's time for an adjustment, right? Yeah. That's the beautiful part about owning your own business. You can pivot at any point in time. You can go get more training. You can go get a better coach. You can pivot, how you're doing things. Like, you have the ability to do that at any point. But you're required to like hold yourself accountable and ask those questions and be true to that.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I'd love to segue into what you were talking about, Eric, when it comes to riding. I know you love to talk to the guys and do all that, but how does physicality, purposefully moving your body, how does that change when it comes to growing a business and sales and like moving your body? Because everybody's busy out there. I'm sure all listeners are like, yeah, I'm running 80 hours a week right now. I barely have time. I'm running between meetings. There's my exercise. Like, I don't have time for the gym. I don't have time to go out on a bike. Like, where would I find that time? The kids want my time. My wife wants my time. So the question is like, just for the listeners to understand the value of moving your body when it comes to making big decisions, specifically helping with sales.
Well, it's funny that you asked me this, Josh, because every time I start a business, I spend the first 3 years all in and gain 50 pounds and my health goes to crap. And and then I have some sort of meltdown moment and go, no, I need to, and in this business, I've been better, I'm a slow learner, but you actually don't gain any time back when you just work all the time. Like you actually just get so deep in the weeds and you're so exhausted on like a cellular level, like you don't even recognize how tired you are. And usually people make very poor decisions in that. So I would say that whatever time that you carve out, and there are people way busier than everybody listening to this podcast that still exercise every day, that own massive companies, right? And they're super busy. Like we all can find 30 minutes. We can all find an hour, and to get out and, it's that old saying, like, what's the best form of exercise? Whichever one you'll do consistently, right? Like whether it's taking your dog for a walk or meditating on the front porch or, going on a 100-mile bike ride, it doesn't really matter. I think you have to get away so that you can actually clear space in your mind to think rationally. And one of the reasons I like cycling so much, I took up cycling at 44 years old, I think. I needed an outlet outside of working. And I picked that, not realizing that it actually taught me all these lessons for entrepreneurship, because cycling's about consistency. Cycling's about suffering. Cycling is suffering. Right. And if you want to be a business owner, you better get used to doing hard things. And so getting up at 5 a.m. and riding in the dark and the cold and the rain and this and that, I don't really do that so much anymore, but I was that. And it was teaching me perseverance and grit. And I think that's valuable. Yeah. So, nobody needs to be doing what I'm doing on a daily basis, but I think everybody should carve out some time for themselves. They'll get that back 10x, I think, in efficiency. Katie?
Yeah. One of the things I love more than anything, honestly, is to go play pickleball with my husband and my brother and his wife. And our kids will come join in, right? And our kids, they're adults now. But that to me is the most energizing thing to go do, where you're out, you're moving, you're with people you like, so you're connected to what really matters most, right? But you're just outside of the headspace and getting your body going and moving. So that's my go-to thing. I love to go play pickleball. And then my husband and I go for a lot of walks, right? And whether he's with me or I'm walking by myself, that's where I think some of my best ideas come. And he'll laugh and tell me to slow down. He's like, you walk really fast.
You do, by the way.
Eric spoke at the airport last week. He's like, I'm going to need you to
Katie and I are walking to this airport.
Get your bicycle, Jason.
And I'm like, I can't keep up.
That's fine.
You cycle for 100 miles and you can't keep up with me in the airport? Let's go. But that to me, just getting out and, you go walk 5 miles or something, and all of a sudden there's so much clarity, right? And it's easy to prioritize things, but if you're just sitting in the grind all the time, you're just lost in it. You're just sitting in it, right? Yep. And so get out, get moving, do something you enjoy, and don't miss the opportunity, really to have fun doing it. There's some real value in just making room for some fun in your life. We think it's funny because so far I was just listening to us talk and I'm like, geez, if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm listening to this, I'm like, I'm out. Peace out. You're like, It's hard. It's a grind.
That's right.
I'm checking out right now. Don't do that, because it is the funnest thing you can go do. It is a big game, but you got to have a game plan, right? And so make sure that activity and that fun is part of your game plan, because you're going to need it to go win.
Josh, let me make one more point. It's interesting because I coach a lot of companies, and obviously I have a lot of entrepreneurial friends. the people who are like the most workaholic tend to like actually have the worst businesses. That's what I see. You know, the people that are so all in and it's everything in their life and all that. The irony is they very rarely are very successful. It's the people who have a more well-balanced life. And look, I'm the person who would be all in. Like that's a struggle for me not to do. But I think in the end, you don't get where you want to go when you behave that way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's been the story of my life where I go into everything 1,000%. I'm an action guy, right? I get things done. And at a certain point, my yes management sucked so bad that I was saying yes to everything and then trying to figure it all out later. And the pressure and the overwhelm was just ridiculous. And I wasn't showing up good at anything. I was half-assing everything. And I was like, man, what's going on here? So I started implementing this idea into my life, the 4 F's, right? Faith, family, fitness, and finance. And every single day, my goal is to grow just 2 millimeters in those 4 categories. And it's in that order. So when I start out my day, every single day is by praying and reading scripture. It's my first thing. Start every single day that way. Just 1 page. Doesn't have to be 1,000,000. Yeah. Doesn't have to be 1,000,000 pages. I don't got to read the whole Bible. I don't need to do any of that stuff. I just need to have 1 page and I need to pray and I'm good to go. Then next is family. My kids are getting their lunches together for school. My wife's out. We take a walk in the morning. That's my family bucket. And then I go into fitness. So that's either a nice long ruck or get on the bike and get out there and put some miles in or go for a run or whatever it might be. Because during those times of chosen suffering, you actually process a lot of stuff. And if you're avoiding that because it doesn't feel good, then what happens in business when things don't feel good? You kind of jump to the side, you get angry, you get crazy, you don't know how to deal with stuff. But if you choose suffering each and every day and choose your flavor, and you get out there and do it every day and you just get the work done, the next thing you know, when something comes up in a business, you've already done the hardest thing of the day before anybody's even out of bed yet. Like nothing can knock you out of your place. I mean, after you're all done, you get into the coldest shower you can get into and you just thank God for that shower and you just let all the demons run out of you, right? It's like, I've already done the hardest thing I'm possibly going to have to do today. And I've done that by choice, purposefully, before I ever even walked in the office. So hit me. Come on, hit me. You can't knock me down. But that's the difference when you do it by choice, or you run like I did in most of my career, hiding from all of those hard conversations or those hard things I got to deal with in business or those hard decisions, hiding from them, hoping they'll go away like I can push them in a closet and shut the door instead of ripping the damn door off, going in there with a flashlight and my 9mm, knocking them out, right? You choose whether you're going to play life on the level of that I'm in control of this, that I'm in charge of what's going on. I'm accountable. I'm all of that toward all these things, or I'm going to play, we call it the receiver and the feeder. I'm either going to be the feeder of my life going out and making things happen, or I'm going to be the receiver sitting back, bitching like it's not happening to me. Like I need it. Is life happening for you or to you? That's the question you got to ask.
And it's very true.
Yep.
So when you're talking about being a yes man, like it reminded me of such a pivotal moment for me. Like when I was growing, when I started my business, I had a kid in elementary school, kid in middle school, a kid in high school, right? And a business partner is 22 years old, so no kids. And when we started, I said to him, I was like, listen, like we can go do this and we'll do this so good. We're going to start this agency, right? We're going to do it the right way. But my family will always come first. And he's like, yeah, sure, of course, you bet. Not having any idea what it actually means to say my family will come first, right? Because when it came right down to it, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I got a game to go to. Am I going? I got this to do. Am I doing it? Right? And you have so many demands on your time, but being able to set those priorities, like that's the cool thing about owning your own business. You decide what's important.
Amen.
You decide what's important, and then you build your whole life around that, right? And so when we got into some pretty serious growth mode pretty fast. We had 2 agencies growing simultaneously. We were growing a team. We'd never done it before. And all of a sudden we're hustling. And I'm like, okay, what's most important, right? Faith, family, all this stuff like you just talked about. Like I got my priorities. I know what they are. And that's families first, right? God's first, family's right there. And so I started thinking, okay, what's got to go? If that's true, and I'm committed to growing this business, and I am, right? We're doing this. Like, it's not an option for the business to not grow. It's also not an option to not hold those top priorities in the top spot. Mm-hmm. So if both of those things are true, what has to happen? And I had to sit there and think, okay, what do I not say yes to anymore?
Yep.
What gets a no? What's the rule for me? And for me at that time when my kids were little, my rule was if I get asked to do something that does not directly make it so I spend more quality time with my kids, the answer is no. Yeah. That means the next time I got asked to go do something for the PTA, that's an easy no, right? Because now it's like not hard for me to say no because I've got a test. I'm like, is this really important to my kid and put me spending more time with them? And if the answer was no, my answer was no. Yep. And it kept me really true to what mattered most. So that mattered to me.
But do you guys find, maybe this is just me, I can say no in my personal life all day. Hey, do you want to go to the movies? No. Do you want to go out to eat? No. Do you want to go see these people? No. No, I don't. Right.
It's like because
you really don't have people, Eric.
Right. Well, no, I'm just saying, like, but then in business, I laugh at myself. I always say that my ambition outweighs my common sense. Right. So, like, I think a lot of us in business, Katie obviously had a very clear path of what she wanted. Me, not so much, right? Like I said, and I still do it too much in business. I say yes because I'm like, ooh, I can get something out of that, right? Like that could be the thing. And all of a sudden you're overloading your plate. And now it's like, oh, how do I do this, right? So that's been a lifelong challenge for me. Not my personal side, but my business side. If I think that there's opportunity, I have a very hard time saying no. And I always think I can do more, which I can't.
Yep.
And I think a lot of
people usually see those opportunities in a vacuum, right? You're like, oh, look, my schedule's pretty clear today. Oh, you want to start a company? Heck yeah, dude, let's do it, right? And then the next day it's like, didn't I say that 3 times in the last month? Yeah.
Sure, that won't take that much time.
Katie,
I got the right people.
Why don't you come down to Utah and we'll do this little retreat for fun? And next thing you know, we have business.
I love it. Oh, I love it, guys. Hey, so I'm going to wrap up here so we can get everybody back to their day. But I appreciate you guys coming on here. And to recap, our goal today was to talk about how to manage fear of losing and or success. And we worked through what that's like. Also, how to balance your life with energy, your family, your all of that, right? So, like, what exactly are you doing, listeners, to make sure that each of those buckets is filled? Because if you're only filling one bucket, the work bucket, the other ones go dry. And you wonder why you end up alone and miserable. So reallocating time, we all get 24 hours in a day. Eric, Katie, Elon Musk, we all get 24 hours in a day. What are you using them for? If you say you don't have time, I just say you have poor time management, because there's always time. It's what is a priority for you to do in that time? So time is always available. It's a matter of how are you allocating your use of it. And then also to just, recap on the entrepreneurial journey as we've gone so far. So guys, thanks for coming in. Listeners, next week, we're going to get into mastering success. No systems, no success. And you'll be able to read this in the show notes better, but it's then KNOW, no systems, no success. So without systems, you're not going to get there. But once you know what systems are, you will. So Katie and Eric, we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.